what is your field of research, or how does your thesis, when you submit it in the hopefully this year?
Yes, not hopefully, it's going. It's going in.
It's going to happen.
Yes.
And what is your additional value, your added value of your thesis? What is newly known in the field of pregnancy and so on?
Yeah, so my dissertation and my studies focused on exercise during the postpartum period. So my first study looks at, can we improve adherence and participation in a postpartum exercise intervention? If the exercises are supervised, we have it in a group setting. And then if we also offer child care and child minding in the sessions, and we also include the infants in the exercises. So we ran a 10-week exercise intervention. We had 3 groups that were enrolled in the study over the course of a year and a half, 2 years. And what we found is that compared to the literature, our adherence rates are through the roof. We only had like a 10% dropout, and most of the people who half the people who dropped out even before the intervention began. So it was like some sort of extenuating circumstance. And then the rest of the participants, we had 78% adherence, which is unheard of with this group. It was very, very good. And that was attending 70% of the classes or more. And we even had a couple of participants who attended all of the classes, all 20 classes, because we were training twice a week. We used the strollers. The participants could bring their infants, or they could bring light dumbbells, like a set of 5s, whatever equated to the weight of their baby or less, they could bring to the exercise intervention. They brought their own yoga mats and their towels, and then we would start with a warm up with our strollers. We'd set up the mats, we'd do a short circuit, then we'd do some light jogging, some arm exercises, and we ended up doing like 3 circuits with jogging in between and some isolation exercises for the arms and the shoulders. And then over the weeks, we gradually increased the volume of running and the intensity, and we decreased the rest time between circuits. The circuits got longer, so we were doing Tabatas, we were doing AMRAPs, we were doing EMOMs, we were doing them all. And then that was like, okay, can we improve adherence? And statistically looking at the numbers, the most common reason for people not to attend was weather, because in Canada one day we had a snowstorm and basically no one attended class the next day. Or appointments, so with doctors or physicians that they can't miss, or life events. So realistically, I was like, well, those are all really good reasons for not coming to an exercise session. Then the second part of the study is, what was the effect of the 10-week intervention on the group? So starting from start to finish, we tested them at baseline, we tested them midway through the intervention, and then we tested them at the end on a variety of different factors, both qualitative and quantitative, but mostly looking at weight loss, BMI. We looked at body fat percentage and patterning as well. And then we did strength assessments. So we had a push-up assessment, we had a body weight squat, we had a plank hold assessment. And then we took metrics like physical activity levels, self-reported, so very subjective. But we looked at infant activity as well over the intervention. And then the third, and then to see if there was changes. And there were improvements across the intervention, which was nice to see. But the one problem we face now with COVID is, like, I wanted to do a control arm, and we were unable to do that. This was a pilot study. We had never tested the hypothesis of this type of an intervention. And so right before COVID was when we were going to start enroll and actually have a waitlist control. So put people on a wait list, have them in the control group, and then we'd enroll them in the program after. So that didn't happen. So then my third study became, are there differences, or essentially, is it better to start an exercise intervention earlier or later? Or do we see the same changes across the board, or is it different? And basically, the earlier that we can get people active after they've had their baby, the better. The curves look the exact same across the board. Everything pretty much looks the exact same, but the people who started earlier ended up finishing the intervention, at a lower body rate compared to their kind of like postpartum age who enrolled at that weight, who started higher. So essentially, the exercise intervention, it worked, obviously within reason, because we need a control group to really test the efficacy. But and then between the groups, it's the earlier we can start, the better. But even if you're starting later, you just have to start. If you can do it, do it.
Okay, so there's no doubt that starting exercising to the extent you can and in relation to what you've done so far, is a general rule.
Yeah.
So you have to get out, exercise.
Yeah.
At best in a variety of different things, and depending on what you can and what you cannot do or what you like to do.
Yeah.
And
I mean, our intervention, we only had a track and a gymnasium space. We had babies as weights. We had light dumbbells, strollers, a yoga mat, and benches and stairs. That's all we had. We didn't have fancy equipment. So the whole purpose was, do you need a lot of fancy equipment in order to get these results? No, you don't. You can literally go outside, find a park bench, and do a workout there. You can stay at home with your baby. You can use a chair. You can use a couch. All of these things are easily accessible. We wanted to basically make it as transferable as possible. And so back to my point of like why I wanted to go back, I wanted to make sure that whatever I did, I could directly apply and people could hear about it. It would make sense. And it informs what I do in my classes for my business. Like everything I do is informed by the literature and informed by running this type of an intervention and seeing how the positive impact it's had. And so now even in my business, I have 2 fourth-year kinesiology interns from the university that work with me from September until April. And then I also get a co-op student from the college. And so they're there during the classes. They assist with infants, and they sometimes even lead classes as well. And my participants tell me, if it wasn't for them, sometimes I wouldn't be able to show up, because I know that even if I've had a bad night, I haven't slept, I have help in the class that I can say, hey, can you feed my infant with their bottle while I do the circuit? And that's their job. And it really has just, we've made a very cool culture and community based around that. And again, for informing future literature, a lot of the research in the past doesn't include infants in the exercises. But as a new mom, you have to take your infant everywhere. So we should start really thinking about that when we're creating these protocols and when we're thinking about how do we incorporate babies into exercise. It's such a field that is still, again, growing. And again, a place for future research. I'm giving lots of ideas here if anyone wants to study pre and postnatal. There's a lot of holes in the literature.
A lot of PhDs that can be done in this field.
Maybe right here.